Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of So Do You Like Stuff? I'm Jeff Miller.
And I am a sick Josh Martinez, at least a head cold sick. I got a little bit of a sniffles.
Do you have it?
No, I don't.
Do you have it?
I got the jab.
Swear to me! Swear to me!
No, I didn't give the trigger to an ordinary citizen. No, it's like no. So what happens is when the seasons change, I get sick. So I get like a little head cold. So I get something in the fall, like a turn, and then something in the spring when it starts to change too. So it always happens.
Likely story, because everything since last year, everything is the C word. So
Yep.
yeah, everything is. It's ridiculous because so my daughter has the same thing like you, where the seasons change, and she always is susceptible to head colds. And last time that she had a head cold, she didn't have any other symptoms. She didn't have the fever. She didn't have, no taste or anything like that. She literally just had a cold. And we took her out of school for one day to help her to get better, and then we took her in the next day, and they were like, no, she can't come in because she has one of the symptoms. It's like, it's a head cold, it's a head cold. It's like, well, by this state mandate you have to do 2 tests. You have to do the test today, and if that comes negative, she still has to go home, and then the next day you have to bring her in, and then if she gets tested and it's clear, then she could go back to class. I'm like, this is so dumb. It's a head cold. That's all it is. It's not, the C word. It's not, it was ridiculous, and it pissed me off to no end. I understand. We're starting to get rid of the realm of what science tells us. It's more of control, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the old but very well known Rocky IV.
That is true.
Also known as Rocky versus Drago.
Drago. If he dies, he dies.
Which came out in 1985.
85, yeah.
So I was not born yet.
I wasn't either. I was not. I think that was, I don't know when exactly it came out, but yeah, I was born in 86, so I was just shy of it. So we watched, there was one night thing where it was a special director's cut, the ultimate director's cut of Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago. And it was a one night only deal through Fathom Events. Get it up. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, it's the most triumphant sports drama franchise in history returns with a new look in Rocky vs. Drago, the ultimate director's cut. This live event is coming to movie theaters for one night only, and includes an introduction Q&A with Sylvester Stallone, director and writer and star Sylvester Stallone. Masterful.
Well, I guess then we didn't. I guess there was the Q&A thing told beforehand.
Yeah, we didn't read that, so it was kind of a big surprise because I don't know if your theater did it, because I'm up in Chicago, Josh is down in Houston, but again, this was a Fathom Events thing, so they do it over the whole country at the same exact time to show this film. And I in my theater, they started playing the movie. Got through probably 10 to 15 minutes of it, and then the screen glitched out. You couldn't hear any sound, and you see Sylvester Stallone going through Adrian's and stuff like that. We couldn't hear anything because the original movie was still playing, and then then they got then the audio started coming through. And it's just like, what the heck is this kind of a thing?
So let me understand that. So they started playing the movie.
Yes.
So you were interrupted in the middle of like it was a recap of Rocky 3.
Yeah.
So it was the Clubber Lang fight.
Yeah, it was right after. It was right after. It was actually in the middle of the fight against Clubber Lang.
Okay, so because they went straight to the premiere in Philadelphia.
Okay, so they waited until it was good to go from Philadelphia. Yeah, we didn't get that experience. Like we were just sitting down eating our popcorn. It's like, yeah, and then it cuts and we're like, what the heck is going on? And then, you know, this random dude and Sylvester Stallone are sitting there in Philly. I'm gonna do a Q&A portion, and I was just like, because this movie boasts that there's gonna be an extra 40 minutes of new scenes and stuff like that, and I'm like, is this the 40 minutes?
Well, so that was the thing that I was confused about, because that's what it was sold as, but the only two scenes that he mentioned in that Q&A was Apollo's funeral.
Yeah.
And the scene with Adrian.
Yes.
When when he's training, she comes to Russia, and it's like, that's it. Those were the only two scenes he mentioned, and then he cut out the scene with the robot.
Yeah. So Rocky IV is my favorite Rocky. It goes Rocky IV, then Rocky III, then 1, 2, and Balboa, all at the same, and then we don't mention Rocky V.
Yeah, Rocky V is like Jordan's Washington years, Michael Jordan's Washington years with the Wizards.
Yeah,
we don't mention those.
Yeah, we don't mention those. It's in Michael Jordan's baseball years. We don't mention those either.
Yeah.
But no, it like even in the Q&A, like.
Yeah,
So,
he hated Rocky V.
Yeah, he's just like
he's like that movie was horrible.
Yeah,
like,
that movie didn't do so well. What is up with that? No, you didn't like the street fight?
Yeah, because at that point he retired.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So Rocky V, the infamous Rocky V, is basically he comes back from Russia and he says, okay, I'm done with fighting. I'm just gonna, live out my years, kind of a thing. But then, Paulie loses all their money. I don't know why. Well, Rocky has always been portrayed as not the brightest of people, and letting Paulie be in charge of your finances, or finding somebody to be in charge of your finances, probably not the smartest thing, because the guy throughout the whole series has been the biggest screw up, the biggest leech out of everything. And I know there's like, oh, but his family. So screw that. You can help him out a little, but dude, like, Paulie has always been just the worst out of all of this. He's been, yes, the comic relief in a lot of things in these movies, but at the same time, he's just been garbage. Like, he was garbage to Adrian in the first movie, the second movie, the third was he was just in the background kind of a thing, just eating his snow cones. And then this one, he's just the lovable fool, because in Rocky IV at the beginning, it's his birthday and they buy him the robot.
Okay, so that's I was trying to remember where the robot scene was in. Because it's at the beginning, right?
Yeah. So with Rocky V, Paulie loses all their money. He has to go back to the mean streets of Philadelphia, and from there he witnesses this kid comes in, bigger guy, looking for Rocky to train him because, you know, the greatest of all time and whatnot, and wants to get trained by him. And then that's what it becomes. And then the whole thing of the new fighter, what's his name is gonna kill me.
The one who does Creed?
No. Tommy Gunn. Yeah, Tommy Gunn. That's the fighter in Rocky 5.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
so I mean, pretty much Rocky 5 is like it was like his rough draft of Creed, because that's basically the plot of Creed.
Yeah, but the thing is with Creed, it wasn't written by Sylvester Stallone. It wasn't.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, because I know. Yes, we want to listen to Creed, the band. Let's see. Writers. Yeah. Oh. It's just based on characters created with Sylvester Stallone. So it's written by Ryan Coogler. So yeah, he took everything. Sylvester Stallone was pretty much done after Rocky Balboa, and he didn't want to do anything. But then this idea of Creed came up, and the director for it and the screenplay and everything was set in stone. And Sylvester was like, "Yeah, go ahead, do it," kind of a thing. At least as long as I'm going to be in 2 of the films.
Yeah. So they're basically like, hey, you know Rocky 5? We can make that plot better.
Pretty much. Because
we'll put somebody in the fighter you train role. We'll make it Apollo Creed's son. Well, it's like his illegitimate son. And we'll make it somebody who actually is can act and is tolerable.
Yeah.
And the person.
Yeah, and I mean with Tommy Gunn, the whole thing comes up because they try to make it, because they have somebody in there that's like Don King, that's
right.
And Tommy goes and signs with him, and he's getting more popular, but everybody's like, "Oh, you're nothing like Rocky" and stuff like that, and he just couldn't take it anymore. So it ended up at the end, it was an actual boxing match. It was a street fight. And then Rocky won, and then that was it. It was like, okay, that was dumb. So, but again, Rocky 4 is probably my number 1 go-to of all the Rocky films. With me, I tend to stay away from AMC, the television network on cable, because pretty much for a while there, every weekend there was a Rocky marathon, and they just played them over and over and over again. And I would basically waste days watching Rocky, because with me, that's my number 1. If it's on, I'm gonna watch it.
I always caught it in it'd either be Rocky's fight with Drago, or it'd be the montage and the fight, or it'd be the Apollo Creed fight.
Gotcha.
That's always where I would catch it, and then I'd end up having to go do something else.
Yeah.
And so this was probably the first time I actually got to see it from beginning to end.
Well, a lot of stuff did change. I noticed a lot of what changed and whatnot, because if you're gonna, because you can actually still watch this director's cut. It's actually on Amazon Prime, or not Prime. It's not on Prime. Sorry, not on Prime. You have to pay for it or rent it. And so the reason why we went to this is it's a one night only thing, and you won't be able to watch it again, kind of a thing. And it's like, well, shoot, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm gonna go see this mess. And like myself and Josh have not talked about this movie with each other. This is the first time that we're, talking about it and getting our reactions from it. But the things that the things that he did bring up with the question and answer portion is actually highlighted. Some of them are down here. The big one is Sylvester Stallone regrets killing off Apollo in Rocky.
Yeah, he did talk about that, but I don't know. Like that was I get his reason for saying that he didn't want to do it, because Carl Weathers, like the character Apollo Creed, played by the actor. I mean, that was a larger than life character.
Yeah,
but I think it added weight. The death added weight. I get that he was saying, I could have put him in a wheelchair, because I think I don't know if it's in Bloodsport or in I think it's in Kickboxer with Van Damme, that his brother
Bloodsport. That's Bloodsport.
Yeah, where his brother ends up in the wheelchair.
Yeah,
for a bit. Like
yeah.
He's got a busted back, and like that has good weight and merit to it. But I think the fact that he died, holds some weight to it. So that
exactly.
I'm not against it, but I'm not against him saying, he regrets killing Apollo. But I'm neither or, I guess.
Yeah, very much like the friend that I went with, my buddy John. He did bring that up even before the movie started. Like, I don't know if they had to kill off Apollo Creed, and as that, like, he was like, oh, he could have been badly hurt or paralyzed or something like that. I would say, yeah, that would be okay, but again, yes, the weight of Apollo's death actually drove Rocky to go to the Soviet Union, to agree to a bunch of stuff, to actually drop the title, to go out to Russia to fight this guy. Because if he was like badly hurt, yeah, it would have sucked. It would have been like, oh man, my really good friend is in a wheelchair and he's gonna be there for the rest of his life, but he's still alive. So I mean, there's not like, I have to go and beat this Russian and take my revenge, because that's what ultimately Rocky 4 is. It's a revenge. It's a revenge movie where he's just like, I gotta do what I gotta do, kind of a thing. Because before he leaves to Russia, like, there's this whole thing with Adrian where she's just like, because 1, 2, and 3, he had to get her approval, or like that he knew that she was in his corner, kind of a thing. Like, it's okay, you need to win, kind of a thing. That's where the breadth of her going to Russia was a big thing, because he was like, Adrian said, no, I don't want you to fight. You don't need to fight. This man already killed somebody. You don't need to sacrifice yourself, kind of a thing. Think of your family. Think of, Apollo. It does suck that Apollo died, but you have to take care of your family and everything. So you don't need to waste your time on this Russian. And he's like, no, I gotta do this, kind of a thing. So he goes out to Russia to train and everything, and he kind of just does it on his own. And it wasn't, and he starts training everything, and that's what the desire was I need to avenge Apollo. And that's the first time that Adrian, like, he didn't need Adrian's like approval or to be in his corner to train hard.
Well, and I I think it plays it adds weight, but I also think of probably being in the moment. In 1985, you've spent 3 movies with this character. You've seen these 2 guys go from enemies to best friends.
Yeah.
And to have him actually die, it must have been a shock in the moment to go, oh, holy crap, like Apollo Creed is dead.
Yeah, especially when first people watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's up there with, Darth Vader revealing to Luke Skywalker that he's his dad.
Yeah.
But things like that, like, it's a risk, but it has weight because it ups the stakes. That's been the problem with with Marvel movies, is that they're too afraid to kill their characters off. Now, granted, if the contract is up, like Robert Downey Jr.'s was with Iron Man, and yeah, you kill him off at the end, you give him a send off and stuff like that. But a good example of it.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Well, a good example was Civil War.
Yeah.
Like nobody died.
Yeah.
In Civil War, and it's just like they promoted it as like it's Iron Man versus Captain America. They're gonna have this huge fight. Like, they're gonna do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the whole fight sequence in the airport was just like one big sparring session for them. So I think doing this type of stuff, like, if going back to the Civil War thing, if they had killed, like, for example, either Captain America or Iron Man, or pick one of the minor characters, like, I think War Machine gets almost paralyzed. Like, if they would have killed him off,
yeah,
it would have added weight to the story and a lot more fuel to Iron Man's anger towards Bucky and Cap. So again, I don't think I understand his frustration again, because Apollo Creed is a well-known character.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have the Creed franchise based off of that. But I think it has more weight that he died.
I do agree. I don't necessarily think he had to die, but again, it drove the story of where if he dies, it's going to be a lot better. And plus, it also, in the original cut, because Stallone brought this up too, was like, in the original cut, like, it seemed like Drago was just like a machine, like a robot kind of a thing. Like, he doesn't talk at all.
You mean Dolph Lundgren isn't? The guy who's got, like, I think a PhD in chemistry.
Yeah, something like that. But like in the original cut, like, he doesn't say anything until like the fight, where they're interviewing after he kills Apollo, and he's like, if he dies, he dies, and all that stuff, and the classic line there. And that was the whole big thing. And I forgot what I was talking about.
Well, I think it was the idea of Drago. I mean, you can kind of, I think probably the best scene where you see that idea that Drago isn't the villain is in the scene where it's the coming to America or living in America scene with James Brown, and Apollo's just like dancing around like an idiot. And he's just looking around, just observing everything that's going around him, and he doesn't know how to respond to that.
Well, they do embellish that in the new cut. They do.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And in the new cut, you get this whole glimpse of him just like looking around, going like, "What?"
Yeah, that was
like are like what? How do I respond to this? Like he doesn't know how to respond to it, and everybody's just kind of like having a joke, like thinking he's a joke, and that's why then it makes sense then when Apollo tells him to touch gloves, he doesn't know how to react. He only knows one way to react.
Yeah.
And that's to just fight, and he hits his gloves down, and that's when Apollo realizes like, oh
crap.
like this dude is legitimate.
Yeah, this dude's serious.
You know, and but even with Apollo, the theme of his character is learning how to accept the fact that this is a common theme that pops up in a lot of movies. It's the theme of I'm retired. Granted, I am in incredible shape. Like the Carl Weathers was in incredible shape.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he had dad bod doughy.
No.
He had a doughy dad bod running around trying to fight Drago. But he has that conversation at the beginning with Rocky about not like he can't just turn off the fighter in him.
Yeah.
And you see this with athletes where it's like, you know, they're getting to my thing would be with basketball would be like is you're getting to those late 30s, which I hate the fact that they say like they're old and they're in their late 30s, and it's like, you know, you're still young.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you know, every year it's just like the grind of just one more.
Oh yeah.
One more. And for Apollo, it's just like he doesn't want to be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's saying there was that montage leading up to the press conference.
Yeah.
And it's all the photos, and it's like old glory versus youth or something like that. Like it kind of was painting it as old versus young.
Yeah.
And for Apollo, it's this, he doesn't want to be forgotten. And there's that aspect. And then the other part of him, just that's all he's ever known.
Mm-hmm.
He's just always been a fighter. And so it's more so, it reminds me of the scene in The Dark Knight Returns where Batman's about to fight the mutant leader, the first time, not the second time. And Alfred tells him, you know, don't go out there and fight him, sir. He's in his prime. He'll kill you. And Bruce tells Alfred, it's the only way I'll know. True. It's he's not going to know until he gets out there and fights. And there's this, for Apollo, it's that desire of, do I still have it?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that is his whole mentality for this. And with the new cut, they kind of emphasize that because, so the big thing that Sylvester wanted to do was to, you know, bring a little bit more humanity to Apollo, to Adrian, and to Drago. And I believe that he did that because you could see at the beginning of the movie, they do the recap from the last film, and then he cut at least 10 minutes from the beginning of that movie of after the recap, because that's the whole robot thing. He's just like, I don't want the robot in there, kind of a thing. I don't want the robot in there. And so the whole Paulie's birthday party, him Rocky washing his car, kind of a thing, talking to his kid during that time, that's not in there. So it officially starts with Apollo in the pool with his dogs, watching the sportscaster saying that this phenom from Russia is coming to the States wanting the challenge, kind of a thing. So that's where the movie starts, and then the other stuff that comes up is just him trying to not just pretty much not convincing Apollo, not convincing himself, but more of, convincing people that he should do this. That, like he goes over to Rocky and Adrian's house and he's talking to both of them, and Adrian's like, no, you don't need to do this. It's not for you. And Rocky's kind of agreeing with Adrian, which that they embellished that a lot too. They added a lot of things in there as well. And then the whole thing before the Apollo Drago fight, the cuts I don't think were really thought out, because you're thinking of the original cuts and it's like, okay, there's a little bit more of a flow here, but in this new cut it's just like, well, here's this and then here's this, and it seems like a whole jumbled mess before they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it just seemed like that. It was just like a whole jumble mess of, okay, we have this footage, we have this footage, we have this footage. Let's just, try to make sense of it all, and then let's get to the fight already. And it seemed like it rushed up very quickly. This the Apollo and Drago fight. It just seemed like, whoa, we're already here already? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I did feel that, because I kept track. The movie started around like the 7:30 p.m. mark.
Yeah.
And when we got to that fight, I don't think it was 8 o'clock yet.
Yeah, it was very quick.
Yeah, it felt like when we got there, I was like, wait, we're already here already? Like,
yeah. And in which they did embellish the whole living in America bit. They did,
which I only hear the Weird Al version of it, which is living with a hernia.
Yeah.
That's when it started, I was just like, oh yeah, it's like all I hear is that song in my head now.
But like like in the original cut, like it was only a portion of the song, but in this one it pretty much plays out the whole thing, and it does do a lot. He did do more of an vantage point of Drago, like, like you said, like he's looking around, seeing all these, women and people, doing flags, fireworks, this big huge golden ox head coming down, or bull's head coming down, with Apollo on there, and going to the front and dancing with James Brown and stuff like that. And Drago's just like, what the heck? And that's where it becomes more of a humanized thing. And he does talk in the pre-fight between Apollo and the Apollo and Drago fight. He does say a few words about the fight. Like, I think it was like yes and no. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, and I do think with that whole intro of Apollo there at the beginning is they have this big celebration of him coming down. He's mocking him.
Mm-hmm.
But then they do the exact same thing though when Rocky goes to Russia.
Yeah.
But the contrast is that, like, whereas Apollo is just kind of like goofing around and having fun, but Drago's not. Like, he's
not dancing around, but I would say that he is a lot looser, because he was doing like shadow boxing and stuff like that, because in the Apollo fight he did not do that.
Right, but what I would say to that though is that he's doing that because that's what he thinks people do in their home country. Because if you watch how he is in the whole thing, he's just very much like he's observing and just kind of
Yeah.
what I think learning.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and I'm like in your home country, you do all this like dance, you do all this stuff, you dance around and you know act silly. But even then but then when he's in Russia, granted he's not like decked out in Russian attire and dancing around on a sickle and hammer, but he's definitely dancing around like you're saying and acting goofy. But I would bet to say that that's because he observed that in America and thought, oh, this is how when you're the champ, when you're on top, this is how you act.
Could possibly.
Possibly, and then slowly when he's fighting Rocky, I did like that in the fight with Rocky, is that like he slowly realizes that like I can hit this guy and he's getting back up.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like realizing like, oh, this is actually like a legit fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I think, what does he say in one of the in between rounds? He's like, this guy's like
he's made out of steel.
Iron.
He's made out of
he's like iron.
Yeah, he's made out of steel, kind of a thing. And like, yeah, the whole thing with the Drago, with the humanization, because like because the actual Apollo fight, yes, it was expanded, and they did a really good job in the expansion, and they kind of played into the whole notion of, you know, kind of Apollo being a little bit more confident at the beginning round, because like he got some shots in right off the bat, and then like Drago was doing this, you know, the amateur thing, like hand up and like trying to do this kind of a thing. And then, you know, towards the second half of the round, his corner says something in Russian, and he just turns on the switch and just goes ham on Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, and then also, you know, with the killing of Apollo, and then the end, he did say much more. So it didn't make him it made him less of the robot and more of the villain kind of a thing. Like you had more of an essence of that he was the villain. And then throughout, you know, Rocky and his fight kind of a thing, you still had that sense of villainy at the beginning. And then as the fight drew on, because again, that fight was expanded as well, that he started getting rid of that villainy, and then more towards, you know, I'm gonna do this for me kind of a thing, which that was the ultimate thing of how Drago did change his ways, because he did it originally, he was doing it for country, then he's just like, well, screw country because they're turning on me, I'm gonna do this for myself.
And I think they kind of in Creed 2, because he comes back in Creed 2, because they got nothing better to do with with characters, because in Creed 2 they expand on him and the relationship with him and his son.
Yeah.
And he's hoping that that with his son he can restore, you know,
his honor.
Reputation, his honor with Russia. But then there's like a scene, it's like a dinner party, and he starts to notice all the things that happened to him.
Yeah.
And like how he was basically used as a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
And then like at the end of the dinner, he tells his son like, hey, I don't think you should do this for them. I think you should do it for yourself, and, you know, don't fall into their trap and stuff like that.
Well,
and then
Well, remember, Drago's son left abruptly because his mom showed up, and
That's right.
after the Rocky fight, like she hightailed it away from Drago.
Yeah, and then at the end of Creed, Creed 2, they go back to where they were living, and it's kind of just he kind of realizes, and I think both of them realize that like they have each other.
Yeah,
and that's really what matters. And they continue to train. Like he continues to train him, but he's like, don't, like, I think when he loses the fight, Drago tells his son like, hey, it's okay.
Yeah,
like I'm here. Like I'm gonna be for you what I wish I had, when I lost my fight to Rocky. Because I think in Creed 2 they hinted that after he lost the fight to Rocky, like Russia pretty much disowned him.
Yeah, very much so.
And so I do think you talk about the scenes cut and the scenes added and how it was edited.
Yeah.
I will say it was a relief to have a movie that was 90 minutes and not feel not bored, but just almost wondering like, when is this movie gonna end?
That is true.
Because when it ended, I was actually with my dad, and he turned to me and he was like, the movie's over?
Yeah.
And I was like, and I looked at my watch and I was like, it's 9:07. Movie started at like 7:30. And I was like, yeah, it's done. It was a 92-minute film or something like that. The original cut was. But it just felt it just felt different and kind of a relief, as opposed to movies now where it's like everything is 2 hours and 15 minutes or so.
Yep.
And you're just that extra 30-35 minutes, you're just sitting there going like, when is this movie gonna end?
Yeah, is this the actual ending, or is this the pre-ending, or because they have multiple endings. Like I think that stuff started with Return of the King, because that movie could have ended like 3 or 4 times before it like officially ended.
Yeah, because wasn't the original isn't the ending like 45 minutes long?
Yeah.
Like they did burn the ring.
Yeah.
And then it's just like 45 minutes of like, well, we got to wrap everything up. We got to give everybody the proper send off. Aragon's got to become king.
Yep.
Frodo's got to go on the boat to some weird place.
to heaven.
to heaven and do all this stuff because he's already served his purpose. And
yeah.
Samwise goes off and lives in the Shire.
Marries what's her face and has tons of kids.
Yeah. But it just felt nice to just have like, but I think that goes to going to a plot that's simple.
Yeah.
It's a simple plot. His friend dies. He wants to avenge him. He goes and fights and he wins. Like the plot is simple, and there's good common themes in there too. Like we pointed to Adrian telling him, he's gonna kill you. You have things to live for now. You have a family. It's not like you're 23 and you're unmarried and you've got nothing to live for. You've got no ties, anything like that. And Apollo trying to rehash his glory days or see if he still got it.
Yeah.
And not thinking of like, I'm retired. I've got family now. I've got a wife. I've got things I got to do. And accepting that the past is the past and moving forward. But then also accepting I am who I am, and there's always going to be, again, I go back, I think of just like Michael Jordan. That guy's still competitive to this day.
Oh yeah.
Like he's competitive in golf, and then he's like, I saw a recent interview with him where he's like, I got really competitive in golf, and then I took up fly fishing to help relieve me of my competitiveness in golf, but now I'm getting competitive in fly fishing.
Yeah.
So it's just like this competitiveness doesn't turn off, but those are common those are themes in the film, but the plot is simple enough that you can hash those themes out and not feel that everything is this convoluted, bloated storyline with all
Exactly.
these different characters. You know, that's there's something to be said about like making characters have defined character roles and not feeling like you have to give them something to do in every
Yeah.
turn.
And that's actually, as you're talking about that, it kind of makes another reason why Creed had to die, because if that didn't happen, it would have messed up with the pacing of the movie, because you would have to have Rocky, like, after the fight, like, be with him, try to recuperate him, deal with all of, Apollo's, thoughts and actions and stuff like that. If you kill him off, you can get through, to the ending fight.
I guess maybe the only thing that that was a miss with killing him off was that maybe like they could have compounded the guilt a little bit more. They kind of hint at it, I think, in Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Was just getting a response from Apollo's wife.
True.
I think they do that in the first movie, the first Creed movie. I don't remember because it's been a couple years since I've seen it.
Yeah, they do.
But just her blaming Rocky for it and just that compounding the guilt on Rocky.
I don't think she ever blames Rocky, but I think Rocky blames himself. Like that, I think that's what happens with Creed, is that he just blames himself about about Apollo's death and everything.
Yeah,
he could stop the fight. That was the other big turning point in the movie as well, is that he could have stopped it, and that's where that added guilt is, and that's what drives him, to do what he does from the rest of the time out.
And the other thing too is if he doesn't die, that would affect the way that Creed movies.
Creed wouldn't be there. Creed would have.
Well, Creed, the whole thing in Creed is that his dad was like, oh, dude, Dad's this legend.
Mm-hmm.
He's an awesome fighter. It sucks it died in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the first one, there's that whole scene where he asks Rocky, like, I heard you and my dad had this, like,
the
undisclosed,
fight.
the secret fight, like, who won?
Yeah.
And Rocky is very straightforward and says like, yeah, your dad beat me.
Mm-hmm.
Like your dad was the best fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think if he died, like it would have been that much of an impact, because the whole thing on the Creed movies is him living up to Apollo's name.
Yeah.
And him being alive would have just added like another.
It wouldn't have been as impactful.
It would have added another dynamic, and then you would have had to flesh out the whole dad-son relationship.
Yeah.
And I think him trying to figure out, it would have basically, like, you would have had to do something with Rocky, because Rocky is basically the surrogate father.
Yeah, exactly.
So you would have had to essentially ditch Rocky for Apollo if Apollo was still alive.
Yeah, you wouldn't even need Rocky, or just to show up, just to maybe help Creed, to help with the training and everything like that. That's it would only be that.
No, it would have been like a small cameo, like Vin Diesel in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. He just shows up at the end, just like, hey,
what's up?
Or the way Vin Diesel tells him, yeah, I'm going to drive.
I'm Groot.
It's family.
Family.
We've got family. Everything's a family.
Family. I am Groot.
Yeah. But that's just an interesting. I will say this too. It was interesting, even though the Q&A was just kind of one of those weird, like, we're gonna have 30 minutes of him talking.
Yeah.
The one thing I did, there's a few things I found interesting. although one of them I knew.
I
One
went and
was
got
the
popcorn.
one that I did know about was when him and Dolph Lundgren, Drago, are fighting, and when they were shooting it, he gets punched in the chest
Mm-hmm.
and ended up having to go to the hospital because when he got punched, like he like Drago like didn't pull it, or Dolph didn't pull it, and they actually like really hit him.
Oh, geez.
And like he ended up in the hospital, I think, for like a week or something like that. Like it was bad. Like he said his blood pressure went up to like a really high number. I think it was like, I don't remember, but it was high. And he said like, yeah, I had to go to the hospital. They had to fly me to St. John's Hospital and had to have like all this stuff done to me. And I think he was out for like a week or two, something like that.
Well,
but the other one,
go
ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
But the other thing I found was interesting was when he talked about the actresses that. Did you catch the actresses that he listed that were originally scheduled to be Adrian?
Yeah, the first one was, it threw everybody for a loop kind of a thing, because that was Bette Midler, right?
Yeah, no, the first two threw everybody for a loop. It was Bette Midler.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I don't want to do this Rocky thing. It sounds stupid. The second one was Cher.
Cher was the second one, and then the third one was what? Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon.
Yeah.
Which that one I was like, okay, I could see it because she can actually act. The other two I don't really know. But then I think he said like she went off to do a movie, I think with Paul Newman or something like that, and she couldn't do it. And then at like the 13th hour, the actress that plays Adrian came in. So I just think it was funny because just considering like who their person, like Cher, Bette Midler, like their personality in that type of role, considering how they made Adrian look. Yeah. Like that would have been completely like opposite to what they were. Yeah. I think Susan Sarandon could have pulled it off. True, yes. But I also think the actress that came in, I think, really did it well. Yeah. The other thing too was, and I started thinking about it when he was talking about it, was originally he wrote Drago to be this Drago was not the Drago that we saw on screen. He originally was written to be this beast, like it was supposed to be like this animal that he was fighting. And then like he originally wanted him to be like super hairy and just like he just wanted to fight a bear. Like that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to fight a bear.
I want to fight a Russian bear. Yeah, that is what I want. I want to fight a Russian bear.
So Dolph Lundgren comes in, talks with him, gives him his stuff, and then realizes this dude's perfect for it, but he's not hairy. I know what I need to do. I need to rewrite him, and he needs to be the fighter of the future. Okay, yeah. And so he rewrites Drago to be this like futuristic, like he's all stats and stuff. And it made me think about how we do sports today. Oh yeah. With like as they're doing all their like metrics, his PSI punching power, and he's like, there's that montage scene where he's like running.
Which one? There's like 4.
Where they're going in between. It's at the end before the fight.
Okay,
like
so he's running on fire.
Yeah, where he's running on the treadmill and the thing's like that high. Yeah. And he's just like gassed out. Like that whole thing, like it made me think about how we do sports today with metrics and. Oh yeah. Even in basketball, they're like, oh, his true shooting percentage is 60% in the paint, and his 3-point percentage, he's a 42%. And like that's a good percent. Like there all these percentages and stats stuff that we do in basketball and baseball and in football and all these other sports. Like I'm just sitting there going like, this was like a precursor to like if you put this movie in today, like we would look at Drago and be like, yeah, that dude's like, he's gonna beat Rocky. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, all the analytics.
It's almost like what we do today with like when we talk about players today versus players 30 years ago.
Yeah.
In how we compare, and it's like, yeah, if you took like in basketball again, because it's my favorite sport, if you did basketball and you're like, yeah, let's stick the 96 Bulls, let's just grab them in a time machine and hop them into 2017 and make them play the 2017 Warriors. Like, they're gonna look at them and be like, dude, how do we defend that many 3-point shooters? Their center's like 6'7". What do we do? Like,
but it's Luke Longley. It's Luke.
But that would be what it is. It'd be like, that's what we do in comparison, and that's what that's what Drago and versus Rocky is. It's basically like old school versus the future.
Yeah.
And as I'm watching it, I'm just going like, yeah, that's like, this is way ahead of it. This is like 30 years ahead of its time.
Well, it's not. Well, I mean, there were still a lot of analytics, especially in baseball during that time, but the way that he's training and everything, like a lot of like physique athletes, like your bodybuilders and everything, that's what it really is. Like, there's, I forget his name, but one of the, if you ever watch not Pumping Iron, but what's the sequel?
Pumping Iron 2. I think it's just called Pumping Iron 2.
No, because Pumping Iron is the original one. The Generation Iron?
Yeah, Generation Iron. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think that's the sequel.
Generation Iron. It has one gentleman in there. Let me see if I can't find him real quick. No, not Phil Heath.
Is it Kai Green?
No, Kai Green, no. It's not French.
Jay Cutler?
No, Jay Cutler, no. It's one of the contestants. Why are they showing everything that not in that? Give me a second. Generation Iron. Let's see, pass. That might be USA. But I can't remember. So one of the contestants, he actually goes in and actually trains with scientists, and he's doing everything. He's hooked up to a bunch of electrodes, and the machine is connected to the computer and just reaching output and everything like that. And they're trying to prove that in science that you can build muscle within the realm of science, kind of a thing, and do your peak performance, but actually have the sculpted physique of everything, not just to have just huge mass, but have mass and also symmetry, because that's what bodybuilding is all about. It's about mass and symmetry. And with that, it basically, the one of the contestants, like, that's all he does. It's like he just hardcore goes in and just does everything with science, electrodes, all that stuff, and they check his peak time or peak range of where he's actually building muscle, and everything that he's eating is done by science, nutrition, all that different stuff. So you'll see more of all that stuff in more of the bodybuilding realm, because that's where you want your peak performance and everything. And there's even they'll even go and see doctors, like even the strongmen and everything will go and see doctors and see, you know, how their overall health is, and to see, you know, what they can do better to, you know, for performance and everything. So that's where it kind of reminds me most of it, is that you're actually, you know, doing what Drago is doing, is, you know, hooking yourself up to do the to, you know, build your body and everything, which Drago does in this film.
Well, we didn't see him consuming, you know, 36 eggs.
True.
And like just pounds and pounds, like just pounding broccoli and chicken.
Yeah, but you know, they do the same thing that even bodybuilders do. They do inject them steroids.
I thought that they were hinting at that in the fight, where it's like, it's either like the last round or second to last round, like one of the guys goes like, go down there. And I thought they were gonna bust the needle out and be like, all right, yeah, inject him with this.
No, he goes down there because he needs to motivate him, because it was the hierarchy of, you know, Russia was right there, and they're like, you know, you're letting this American embarrass us. You put your name on this. That's why you need to go down and talk to him and stuff like that. But no, like during that training montage, he does shoot up steroids and everything.
Yeah, because at that point, at that last round, like everybody's cheering Rocky on, and I mean, at that point, it's like he's losing.
Yeah.
No, I just thought it was more so of the, you know, how we do sports today. But you're right, it is the bodybuilding thing too, and you know, and there was the moment while I'm watching it where I'm just like, man, I'd like to just build like a home gym out of just wood. Yeah. Just cut a tree down, get it to where, get the saw out and just saw it up, and then just like make a dumbbell out of a chunk of a true
the whole Rocky montage, like it's the whole big thing of, you know, of true grit versus, you know, scientifically made kind of a thing. And like, yeah, everybody feels that way. Like, everybody gets pumped up during the Rocky montages, because, you know, it's just stuff that he's just hard work and just, you know, putting in the efforts and, like, you know, just using basic objects. And that's what appeals to so many people in this, is like, he's just in the middle of nowhere, and with snow everywhere in this cabin, and he's just gonna go and work out with just basic things, and where he's gonna be all huge and cut and stuff like that, and, you know, gonna beat this Russian with true American grit.
Well, that, and I actually, leading up to seeing the look up Steve, what, like, how much did he weigh during Rocky 4? Because his body in Rocky 1 versus now, it's a completely, like, in 9 years he just, like, because he's also doing the Rambo films too. Yeah. And you look at how he is in Rambo 1 versus Rambo 2, like, he's like super shredded. And like, I think if I read it right in the article, he had like gone from, I think, like 200 pounds for Rocky 2, and then I think by like not Rocky 2, Rambo 2, and then I think in Rocky 3 he dropped to like 160. 155. Like, he got super lean, and then I think for Rocky 4 he bulked up to like the 180s. Yeah, and so his weight fluctuated, and then like for the Rambo movies he was like somewhere in between two. So his weight fluctuated a good 40 pounds. Well, it all 40 to 50 pounds depending on like how he wanted to be, and he was training with Franco Columbo.
Columbo.
That was his trainer for all those films.
Yeah, and I mean, he did get caught, you know, with steroids and everything like that too. That was the big, huge grand jury about, him and some of the other actors and everything like that using steroids to, you know, boost his performance in these films, which I'm just like, why are you talking about this, you know, for actors? It doesn't matter. It's more matters in, you know, sports and everything, which, you know, everybody in sports that are up there, you have to question it.
Well, it was kind of obvious when he did Rocky Balboa and then Rambo.
Yeah.
Those two movies in the mid 2000s, because like those ones he looked bloated.
Yeah.
And I think that was around the time he came out and was just like, yeah, I take steroids.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything to my body. And
yeah. Well,
totally
yeah, because like everybody knew he did it, and yeah, he was brought to a grand jury about it, but in the late 80s, early 90s. But I mean, overall, like, if we keep on going on with this, it, like, there was a significant amount of changes to this film. Well, I wouldn't say changes, it was more complimentary. Like, they expanded on the funeral of Apollo. They expanded more on Adrian, and, you know, because in the original cut, she was, like, there, but not really there. But they did, you know, make sure that she was more of in disagreement about, you know, Apollo fighting Drago, and then also Rocky fighting Drago, to ultimately, you know, going to Russia and say, you know, if you're gonna do this, I'm gonna be with you, kind of a thing. So, but yeah, and then they expanded a lot on the montages, like especially the montage of him in the car in his Ferrari.
I was wondering, like, is that in the original?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And there's more shots of him in the car, like driving and stuff like that. But they expanded a lot on that, like, you know, because the whole thing about that montage is that he's, you know, thinking about just everything, like where he comes from, family, you know, how did it start, like more about Apollo because Apollo just died, and the whole, you know, the whole Apollo, a lot of the Apollo fights in there.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you probably cut the beginning part with Clubber Lang,
yeah,
from Rocky 3, and then the rehash scenes in that montage, you probably cut like another 5 minutes from the movie.
Yeah, very much so.
It would have been like an under 80, it would have been like an 85-minute film.
Exactly, but you know, you have to have the recap from the previous film. They've done it with every single film except for Rocky 5, because nobody wants to rehash on Rocky 5.
Right. Well, in movies they call that padding, when it's like, oh, we have no. You've done sound engineering, so you know. It's where it's like, you're like, man, that scene feels like it's just thrown in there for some padding time.
Yeah.
You didn't have anything left.
Exactly. And
I would say that it was funny that he said that the movie was the most 80s out of the original cut. He's like it's too 80s. Like, if you watch that, it's just like, man, this has the 80s all over it.
It's like,
and it's almost like but he sounded embarrassed when he said it.
Yeah, he did, but it's just like, no, that's what makes it great, is that it's the 80s. And like, because the first three, well, especially the first two, you had so much grittiness and everything, like, you know, a lot more darker filters, and, you know, just has that hue of just, you know, of grit.
Well, it's in the 70s.
Yeah,
76 and 79.
Yeah. So, and even with even the third one had that grittiness to it, even though it was in the 80s, but it still had that grit to it. This one was more of, you know, the flashier, you know, Rocky got some money. That's why they cut out the stupid not the stupid robot. That robot was awesome, but they cut out the robot and everything, because it enveloped the 80s, which during that time, that's what the 80s were all about. It was enveloping. There's nobody that was, clinging on to the 70s or anything like that. If you were, Rocky's age at the time or younger, you did envelop the 80s. So I think it was a very good time period piece. Rocky 4 was, and especially with the whole Cold War thing too. So
yeah. I would argue it's not the Cold War part. It's the James Brown living in America.
Living in America.
That was like, as I'm watching it, I'm just going like, dude, this is so this is so 80s. And the funny thing is like, if you're younger and you have no idea who James Brown is, you're just going like, who is this guy? Why does he look like a dad trying to dance in an outfit that is just a little too small for the body? Because like 60s James Brown, he was thinner, but like by this point, 20 years, he was, you get up in age, you don't exercise, you start putting on a little weight.
But I mean, you could still move. That's the big thing.
You could still move.
Yeah. But I mean, as we go along with this, I mean, I think we covered pretty much most of everything that was done and like talked about it. But the thing that we have not talked about yet was, what is your overall impression of this cut?
I go back to just the thing of simplicity of the plot and it not being afraid to just be that. Like, I like that. I was like, it felt good. Just like simple plot, some themes that you could pick up from the story that we talked about, and it's just like you're able to see those themes through the characters because the plot is simple. It didn't, and I want to go back and watch the original cut and just to see what was in and what was out and just kind of get that. But overall, like, I enjoyed it, and that was just what the impression it left on me was, like, simple storytelling with universal themes that we all can touch on.
Gotcha. So with me, like, because this is one of my favorite films of all time, and if you look on the internet right now, like, a lot of reviewers and everything like that, it's just like, oh, it's lackluster, it's, this, that, the other, it's a waste of time, don't even watch it. I'd say watch it if you are a true fan of Rocky 4, not like some of these idiots that are just like, oh, I'm just a film critic and I'm gonna put my emphasis on, story and subplots and blah, blah, blah. Or be one of these, Gen Zers that, think that they know everything and know everything about scripts and how movies are and, why it doesn't have this many gay people in it, whatever kind of a thing. But I would say it's right. It wasn't. It had the same feeling of the original cut. Besides the beginning before Apollo and Drago fight, that's where it kind of muddled. But after that, it started gaining more traction. And I did like some of the scenes in between there, between Adrian and Rocky, and more emphasis on the Russian tests, the Russian training and everything. Overall, I'm not disappointed in this cut. Like, I don't think it's better than the original cut. I don't think it may be just a little bit worse than the original cut, but overall, it's still a good cut. I mean, I have no issues with it. It wasn't groundbreaking like I was hoping for. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be so awesome. I thought originally with this director's cut, with the 40 extra minutes, I was like, oh, it's going to be a longer movie. They're going to just, keep the original cut, but they're going to put things in there. But it's like, no, he definitely cut it up and, kept it at the 90 minutes kind of a thing. And I mean, I was okay with it. And the way that he cut it and everything, again, beginning, not so much, but as they grew through, it was good. And I thought it was good. And a lot of other places and other reviewers are just like, no, it was garbage, and why even spend the money to do it, and it didn't emphasize anything. And yeah, that's the point. I mean, yeah, it did humanize. It did do its successful thing of what that Stallone was looking for, was to humanize, Drago more, expand on Apollo's, decision on everything, and then expand on Adrian's feelings towards everything. That was the overall goal that he wanted, and I believe he succeeded.
So just really quick.
Mm-hmm.
So the original cut of Rocky IV on Rotten Tomatoes has an audience score of 76%,
mm-hmm.
and technically I think it's under 50%, it's certified rotten, 44% from the tomato meter.
Yeah.
The consensus is that, as it says here on Rotten Tomatoes, Rocky IV inflates the action to absurd heights, but it ultimately rings hollow thanks to a story that hits the same basic beats as the first 3 entries in the franchise.
Mm.
Which, at that point, I would say, so does every other story that comes out.
Yeah.
IGN gave the director's cut an 8.
Which is funny, because if we look right here, Polygon says director's cut review, Stallone drops a ferocious flawed redux, and then The Guardian gives it only 2 stars out of 5 and says Rocky versus Drago review, silly, director's cut is a losing battle. And IGN gave it an 8 out of 10, which the person that probably did the reviewing was somebody that loved Rocky IV. Metacritic was at 40%. 92% of people liked the movie, and Rotten Tomatoes were at 44%. See, that's the overall thing, is that you can't. The only people that are gonna watch this movie, nobody new is gonna watch this movie. Nobody's gonna come back and say, "Oh, I'm gonna watch Rocky IV, the director's cut," even though I haven't seen the original and I don't know anything about Rocky or anything like that. No, the people that are gonna watch this film are people that are fans of this film. That's the only reason why this was made. This was not to be, up for Oscar-worthy, awards or anything like that. This was simply like, Sylvester Stallone was sitting there over the pandemic and was like, well, Zack Snyder is doing his cut of Justice League. Why don't I do my director's cut? And that's basically what it came out to be. I think he was just like, I need to do something. Well, we can do, and all this, the way they explained it, was like, I just wanted to, do a recut of something. And he's like, well, probably the best one would probably be Rocky IV, because it was granted, it was not the highest rated, but it was actually the most popular, and it actually did the most sales in the theater, kind of a thing. So that's why he did Rocky IV. And
I mean even the Chicago Sun-Times gives it 3.5.
Yeah, out of 5.
Out of 4. Out of 4.
Oh, out of 4. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the consensus is that in some of these reviews is that because he was able to cut some of the stuff that made it kind of stupid or over the top.
Yeah.
Another Stallone reference there. This review says that it gave Apollo more time and Adrian more time.
Yep.
Kind of basically what he said in the interview was that he wanted to give more screen time to the characters
and wanted to embellish, you know, everything for him. So, but I mean, that's our overall consensus on it. Again, Josh said he liked it, and wants to, you know, if you have not seen the original cut, watch the original cut first, and then watch this cut, because then you know the changes and everything. But overall, I would say, again, with me, it's not bad. It's basically it's a retelling of the story, and I liked it. It's, you know, still not better than the original cut, but again, it's still a good cut. That's my consensus, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, it could be worse. It could be like the remember those mid to late night, it was like 97, where they came out where George Lucas came out with those like remastered versions of Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
And he added all that garbage to it.
The garbage, the he was like, I found out about CG. Let's use it.
And the singing cantina scene and Return of the Dead. Oh gosh. He's like, I'm gonna take this and make Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this, and kids are gonna love it. Yep. Like I've seen the because on the special edit or the original DVD of it, it came with because it was 2 discs. It came with the second bonus disc, which, you know, did all the processing and stuff like that. And he's going around showing Spielberg, like, oh, you know, here's this, and they get to Jar Jar Binks, and Spielberg's like, well, what is this character? Oh, this is Jar Jar Binks. Like, kids are gonna love this guy, and you know, it's gonna be like freaking what are they called? The teddy
Ewoks.
Bears. Yeah, the Ewoks. It's like this is gonna be the Ewoks on crack. Kids are gonna love him. Yeah. Nobody loved him. It's funny because I was going through the kids section of the toy store, and they had all the Star Wars stuff, and like a lot of it was gone, except there were like this big huge row of Jar Jar Binks dolls. I'm like, not even touched. I was like, oh, okay.
Don't push a character that doesn't sell.
Kids are gonna love it.
Yeah.
But also, this thing threw me for a loop. There was a friend that I went with, my buddy John, showed me this trailer, and it got me really excited. But then I found out that it wasn't real, and it made me sad. We're gonna take a look at this, and like, it's just too good, and I wish it was real and everything. So let me turn this up, and then turn that on, and then we're gonna press play.
This is turn. It's a big turn. I'm retired.
7 years later, we're still talking about it. Why do you think he's been able to stand the test of time?
He's a man of honor, respectable.
They invade themselves just because you can see with everything around it. Only the strong survive.
I happen to know for a fact that Dukes is telling the truth. Who is the next?
It's the same question for the last 25 years. I have poured all my knowledge. When you fight, my spirit fight.
I start to believe in destiny more than anything else.
I think that was kind of the first question for me, is when Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
it was like Lawrence Fishburne and then Forrest Whitaker's hair.
Yeah. So yeah,
Like when I saw that, that was like my first like clue of just like, is this a deep fake?
yeah, and it faked me out. Like well, because it was shown to me so quickly, and usually I catch up on catch those little nuances and stuff like that. Like, is this real or anything like that? But whoever made this, made the trailer, kudos to them. Like, they did a superb job, kind of a thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be awesome. Speaking about, another very popular 80s fighting movie, good old Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Like it I think my hope of it trying to be real overshadowed my perception of actually seeing if it was real or not. I think that's what overshadowed it.
I think, well, what you hope is that like Van Damme sees it and then goes like, hey, maybe I should do this.
Yeah.
Kind of like, how Schwarzenegger needs to pony up on the Conan 3 movie. I think it's called
True.
It's not Conan the Destroyer because that's the name of the second one, but it's like Conan the Legend of Conan or Conan the Legend or something like that. Like, he's been promising the third movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
And so,
well, technically it did. Didn't The Rock play Conan?
no, he played Hercules.
Oh no, it was Hercules. I thought there
You're
was
thinking Jason Momoa. He did the Conan movie, the Conan reboot.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
It
Conan.
was like it was like right before
Yeah.
he did Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no, I think it was after Game of Thrones because it was 2011.
Oh, then it was the same. It was around the same time then.
Yeah. So yeah, it was Jason Momoa. I forgot about that. Yeah, it was Rock that did Hercules, and then Jason Momoa did Conan.
Which, it's an okay movie, but yeah, Schwarzenegger's been like promising. Because at the end of, I think, Conan the Destroyer or first Conan movie,
Yeah.
they show him as like old Conan
Mm-hmm.
at the end, and it's like there's many other tales to share, and it's like just do it.
Just do it
Like,
already, and
yeah.
make a Predator, a good Predator sequel,
A proper Predator movie.
a proper Predator sequel instead of Danny Glover.
Well, yeah. So yeah, the Bloodsport thing. Yeah, he needs like hopefully it's kind of like the Deadpool thing, like when they did that short.
Yeah.
That Deadpool teaser that Ryan Reynolds did, and then people were like, "Oh, is this real? Like, this is awesome!"
Mm-hmm.
And then Fox was like, "Maybe we should let him do a Deadpool movie."
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was reading some of the stuff on Reddit and everything, and people are like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be, it's a fake trailer, but I think it's gonna be done," kind of a thing. I think it's gonna be like release of 2024, but like there's nothing like IMDb, there's nothing from that it's going to be real. But hopefully I think Jean-Claude would do it because he needs something instead of a lot of these, B movies that he's been in. And I think the last A movie that he's been in was The Expendables. Was it Expendables 3?
No, it's Expendables 2. Expendables
2, yeah.
3 was Mel Gibson.
Yeah, Expendables. Expendables 2.
Which
He was
there's-
the bad guy.
Which they're shooting Expendables 4.
Yeah. But
I think that's gonna be the last one.
Yeah, I believe so. But I think it would be because a lot of stuff from the 80s, like the old people, from that generation coming back, doing their thing again. Like, it's becoming very popular, and especially like Rocky Balboa kind of started that, where you got the older guys, and then like it went from Rocky Balboa to Taken, because Taken,
Yep.
yeah,
Taken was kind of like that like made it popular.
old guy action, yes,
Yeah, like guy in his 50s, just because then he had Denzel Washington doing The Equalizer.
The Equalizer, and then Man on Fire was another one. He did a lot of them. It's funny how Liam Neeson was like this huge like dramatic actor and stuff like that, and then when Taken happened, he became like an instant action star, and then like action star / comedy, because he does a lot of stuff for Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, I would say that this movie definitely needs to be done. Guaranteed.
Yeah, so it's The Legend of Conan.
Oh, Legend of Conan.
Yeah, that Schwarzenegger is
Teasing about.
and there's no like it's production status in development.
Gotcha.
The one I want to see that he's in, Kung Fury 2, the sequel to the Kung Fury movie that you can find on YouTube.
Yeah. Kung Fury 2, the film. Yeah, he plays the president.
Yeah. That I do want to see, and they need to hurry their tail on that one, because that was lightning in a bottle.
It was for being there for only like a half an hour thing. It filled so much awesomeness. Like, I mean, come on, he's gonna fight a shark, a man shark, and Triceracop.
Yeah, they got Michael Fassbender in there.
Yeah. Definitely. If you have not seen this, if you've not seen the original Kung Fury, definitely check it out, kind of thing. But I would say yes, make Bloodsport. Go see the Ultimate Director's Cut of Rocky 4, Rocky vs. Drago. You can get that on Amazon. I think it's like for rent. It's for like Blu-ray quality. It's $2.99, and then the 4K version is $5.99, and then you can purchase it as well as a digital thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, go see it. I definitely recommend it. Josh recommends it. And yeah, I think that draws us to a close on another eventful So Do You Like Stuff. Ain't that right, Josh?
It was. I actually enjoyed Rocky in this one. Well, again,
Yeah.
I would definitely. You can't see it in the theaters. It was a one-night event, but
Yeah, you can't
definitely rent it.
Yeah, definitely rent it. So for So Do You Like Stuff, I'm Jeff Miller.
Josh Martinez.
Y'all have a good one, and stay true to yourself, and hearts on fire. Hey everybody, thank you for watching this episode of So Do You Like Stuff. From the bottom of myself and Josh's heart, we want to thank each and every one of you. If you haven't had a chance, go on the bottom there, hit that little subscribe button, and then hit the like button if you truly enjoyed our episode. And make sure you share this with your friends and everything. And on top of that, if you want to take us on the go, we are actually on Anchor. That is anchor.fm/SDYLS. And then also you can hear us on Spotify at So Do You Like Stuff, and then other major podcasts platforms. If there's one that you cannot find us on, let us know about it. And then also, if you want to get in contact with us or see if what's going to be on the down low list out, so do you like stuff, you can actually hit us up on our Facebook and our Twitter as well. That is for Facebook, it's facebook.com/SSDYLS. And for Twitter, it's the same thing. So it's twitter.com/SSDYLS. Thank you again for watching and supporting this channel, and can't wait for the next one.